think about where am I? Where am I coming from intrinsic motivation? And where am I deluding myself that actually, I want to do something and really I don't? It's coming from survival. And the more intrinsic motivation in your life, the more content, the more fulfilled you will be. The problem with extrinsic motivation is that what happens is we look to the reward system or external reward system all the time. And as we're looking to the external reward system, then we develop this sense of, well, I only do things if I get an external reward. Or if I do something for somebody, I then expect them to reward me in some way. And then life becomes transactional. And we end up in this state where we're not fulfilled unless other people do what we want. Welcome to Transformation Embodied, a space where personal evolution meets expanded consciousness. I'm Rosie, a channeler, an energy healer, here to walk with you on the path of awakening. Each week, we explore what it means to live in alignment with your soul through stories, insights, and practical tools that bring transformation into your body, your mind, and your everyday life. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and let's step into the next chapter of your awakening together. Okay, so today I want to talk about the people who only do things because they think they're going to get something in return. We all know somebody like that, don't we? That we think that they're acting out of a genuine desire to help or a genuine motivation. And then we realize that, they have an agenda at play here. They now expect me to do something for them. So this is what we call, and I learned this in teaching as well, and as psychology, this is what we call intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. So the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic is intrinsic is that you just have an internal sense of fulfillment when you do something for somebody else, or it could even be something that you do for yourself. I mean, it could be playing a sport, it could be some kind of achievement, it could be cleaning your house, it could be, that you do it for the genuine fulfillment of the feeling that you get once it's done, right? Because you have this internal sense of morality that's guiding you towards doing what you feel is the right thing and what you feel is meaningful. Okay, so these are people who have this in a strong way. They're often people who are willing to sacrifice themselves to do the right thing because they have such a strong sense of intrinsic motivation that says, I will have fulfillment myself. If I help you, I will also feel fulfilled. And I'm going to get to manifestation and kind of expanding your consciousness and all of that stuff, the idea of service, which is one of my 4 pillars of a fulfilled life. So the idea of having this intrinsic motivation is often threaded very much into conscious parenting, that we just do things because they make us feel good on the inside, all right? And we develop a strong sense of morality because of that. Now, the opposite is the person that I described at the beginning. This is the person that sees life as transactional, that they have been given a model of existence that if they do something, they should expect something in return. And there's often an issue here. My personal perception is that there can be an issue here with people who grow up in very strict religious households, families, that there's this idea that their morality is attached to an external entity that either punishes or rewards. And so they end up with a system, an inner system that tells them that everything they do is relative to an external reward system, reward or punishment system. And, they look to the book to tell them the rules of life. And everybody has an inner sense of morality that comes from empathy. I'm not slating all religion or all religious people. but it's a certain type of indoctrination that teaches people that they don't know and not to follow their inner guidance, that they need a book and they need a person, a priest, or they need a external hierarchical system to teach them about morality. And so their inner knowing is not correct and they cannot trust it. So this can lead to somebody having an overemphasis on extrinsic motivation. And then the problem with extrinsic motivation is that we look to the reward system or external reward system all the time. And as we're looking to the external reward system, then we develop this sense of, well, I only do things if I get an external reward. Or if I do something for somebody, I then expect them to reward me in some way. And then life becomes transactional, and we end up in this state where we're not fulfilled unless other people do what we want. That's the problem. We are not fulfilled unless other people reward us. And now we have a sense of fulfillment that depends on an external reality that we're not in control of. Additionally, when we don't get rewarded for the things that we do, then we feel like we're being punished instead. And then we go into, well, I must have done something wrong. What did I do wrong? Was that a wrong thing? How can I be better? Do I need to get better? Is there something else I need to do to get the reward? Is there something else I need to do for the people in my life to give me the fulfillment? So now we're depending on the people in our life to give us the fulfillment that we desire. And we're not acting out of a sense of internal morality. We're acting out of a sense of, either being rewarded or punished. Maybe not even being rewarded, but just fear of being punished and feeling bad about ourselves and having that shame show up. The problem is there's a real lack of resilience in that model, because your emotional world now is dependent on the external environment and whether people are doing what you want them to, whether they are giving you the things in return for your efforts. And, of course, you will make judgments about how big the reward needs to be, what kind of reward it needs to be, how quickly you need to receive it, all of that stuff. If I do something for somebody and they don't say thank you, do I now fall into a state of shame and I'm being punished, or do I maintain my inner sanctity because I know I'm doing the right thing and I feel good about that? That gives me fulfillment regardless of how the person responds. And if the person is not saying thank you, do I need to analyze why? No. I am grateful that I was in a position that I was able to support them, because that gives me fulfillment, right? So now we go into the energetics of this dynamic, because, quite naturally then we can see we're thinking about manifestation, we're thinking about maintaining a high vibration, we're thinking about maintaining a positive attitude, regardless of what the outer world is showing me. I'm going through life and I'm carrying on with a high vibration. I perceive that the world is giving me exactly what I need at any given time. I'm feeling fulfilled by life regardless of what I'm being shown, right? It's the same model of intrinsic motivation, and attached to that obviously is authenticity. Am I acting out of my authenticity? When I'm acting from intrinsic motivation, I'm acting from a place of, I want to do this because this is me. I'm the kind of person who does this. And then it doesn't matter whether the person says thank you, whether they are grateful for what you've done. Obviously, we don't want to be doing things for people who actually don't want us to do it. That's called control. We're not doing that. But, just generally going about life and being helpful and doing things because we are intrinsically motivated to do so, because our system is built on a model of an inner sense of morality that comes from our empathy, that comes from direct experiences of experiencing fulfillment when we behave in a way that we deem meaningful and positive. And this is directly connected to the idea of manifestation and maintaining a high vibration, because when we know that system, we know how to build on that energy. build on the positive energy, build on the things that motivate us, that are not dependent on how other people behave. A massive part of manifestation is not allowing limiting beliefs that show up in our environment to suck us into a spiral of negativity and shame, to maintain a positive attitude regardless of what our reality is showing us, because those are our limiting beliefs. They're only showing up because we have dared to think outside the box. We have dared to expand our awareness and our consciousness beyond what our limiting beliefs want us to, beyond what all those emotions and the victim and the shame and all of that those inner parts of ourselves, they are desperately trying to keep us in the same state of consciousness that we're in right now. And because we have dared to step outside of that, and we've dared to grow, we've dared to imagine something greater than those aspects of ourselves want us to. Let's not confuse this. It is a sense of safety, wanting to keep us safe. It's not these are not malicious parts of ourselves. They want to keep us safe. We have dared to expand ourselves, to be brave enough to go beyond that, to have the courage to go beyond that. And they are coming in hard at that point in our reality and saying, nope, here's a block. Nope, here's a block. Nope, here's a block. You must not overcome this because that is scary. It's not safe. And if you have this system of intrinsic motivation where you know how it feels to just act out of the sheer sense of inner morality, that things that make me feel good just because it keeps me in a positive state of mind, then you already have that inbuilt system to support you, to overcome those, to say, okay, my outer world is showing me all these blocks, but I know what's right on the inside. It's not dependent on what people on the outside do. I know what's right. And so I'm going to keep moving on this path because this is the path that brings the fulfillment. So yes, intrinsic versus extrinsic, very important to identify. Like when we think about going to work, when people go to work, they might just for now be going to get the paycheck. That is an extrinsic motivation. I need that money to pay my bills, to keep my roof over my children's head. All right. And there's nothing negative about that. But when it comes to manifesting something greater, what we will discover is that probably doesn't make us feel that good. That's probably not our ideal state when we're working. And actually, if we want to manifest something more fulfilling in life, we probably want to manifest the kind of work that does pay us. We are motivated by the money, but also does give back in terms of our inner motivation that says, I just want to see people thrive. I want to help people to live better lives. I want to make sure people are safe. You know, maybe you want to work in a role that protects people in some way, or or I want to develop new technologies that the medical system, or I want to, right? These are roles that come from our intrinsic motivation, our inner sense of morality that says, I want to do something impactful that supports the development of humanity. And that is when we look at the pillar of service, that's what it's all about. It's about intrinsic motivation, that we give from a place where we experience fulfillment just because we're giving and we know that it's meaningful. Okay. And many times we have to undo a lot of programming. We have to undo a lot of limiting beliefs, and we have to undo a lot of emotional trauma and codependency. Codependency is like the denial. It's the part of ourselves that's like, yeah, you are giving from internal motivation. You are. No, you're not. No, you're giving from the desire to feel safe because you're terrified. If I don't do this, I will be rejected. People won't like me. I won't be loved. I can't bear to be alone. You know, all of that stuff. So codependency is like, it's so insidious in a way that it's secretive, that it's like, oh yes, I'm very much, and people really will buy into the idea that I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do, and that's my internal motivation. And it doesn't mean that you don't have an internal motivation to do good things and to support people, and you aren't fulfilled by that. It just means that you're not doing it from that place. You're actually doing it from your need to survive. And that's not because you're a bad person. It's just not in alignment with your most empowered self. And so it's going to drain you, and it's going to suck the life from you. And your physical body will start to show you that over time, and you will feel completely exhausted because you're not pulling from source, unconditional love. You're not pulling from that place, right? The resources there are limited. So yeah, a few things to think about in terms of extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation, and allowing the intrinsic motivation to support you on your manifestation journey. That is the goal. Intrinsic motivation is the goal. And that's like an unlimited power source. When you tap into that, we get everybody on the planet tapped into that power source, we will be thriving, and so will the planet. Like, everybody will be just in such a wonderful place. So think about that. Think about how that fits into your life. Think about, where am I? Where am I coming from intrinsic motivation? And where am I deluding myself that actually, I want to do something and really I don't? It's coming from survival. And the more intrinsic motivation in your life, the more you're doing things from your intrinsic motivation, the more content, the more fulfilled you will be. Honestly, that's the recipe. All right. Thanks for listening. Take care, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Transformation Embodied. If today's message spoke to you, share it with somebody who's ready to step into their own transformation. For more channeled guidance, resources, and ways to work with me, visit transformation-embodied.com. Until next time, keep listening to your higher self, keep embodying your light, and remember, your transformation is already unfolding.